Hello, welcome to Record Time. Record Time is a weekly Akashic experience where we explore simple and mysterious themes through the lens of the Akashic Records. My name is Mina, and I'm happy to be here with you. Welcome to friends old and new. And if you're brand new, as always, I invite you to check out my website, minaruchi.com. If you're brand new to the Akashic Records or to me and my work, if you're wondering what the Akashic Records are and what I'm talking about, then my website is a great place to dive in and start to explore. All about the Akashic Records and what they can offer us, how they can support us as we move through our own unique journeys and experiences. But for right now, if it's safe and accessible and if it would feel good, I invite you to just take a moment to land where you are. That might look like taking a deep breath, maybe even making some sound as you exhale. It could look like relaxing your shoulders, noticing if you're clenching your jaw and inviting it to soften. It could look like sitting down if you're able to and if that would feel good. If you're sitting down, maybe it looks like laying down and just getting even more comfortable. Maybe it's as simple as making like a tiny little adjustment in the position that you're already in, just to get even 1% more comfortable. You can continue to settle in whatever way feels good as I tune into what the records wish to share with us this week. They're sharing, pausing is part of the process. Pausing is part of the process. So this idea might seem like old news because it is the most ancient news. It's not news at all. Pausing is such an ancient kind of magic, the magic of stillness and waiting and holding, pausing in the middle of something. So this kind of like the medicine and the magic of pausing can be applied to so many different things. And we're going to explore this in a semi-specific context. So, and this whole exploration of today's topic, as always, is just that. It's an exploration of a perspective. It's not like I am telling you something that is absolute or necessarily true. It's just one way to think about something. So if you are feeling a little bit romantic and you are in the mood to play with your imagination, I'd love if you could take a moment. Maybe this includes closing your eyes or just kind of taking on an inward gaze and considering, do you think of yourself as someone who is in active co-creation with something greater than yourself? Are you someone who is an active co-creation with something greater than yourself. This could be captured or pointed to in phrases like co-creation with the universe, collaboration with the divine, working together, working with spirit, working in a heart-centered way, working with the deep self, listening to your inner wisdom, all of these things. Are you someone who fancies yourself to be a co-creator with something greater than yourself? Is that something that you either wish to be doing or something you feel like you're actively in the process of? If that is you, or if that is something that you wish for, you would want that to be who you are and how you move through the world, is in collaboration with something greater. If that's you, what the records are asking us and inviting us to contemplate is, how do you think that works? What does co-creation look like to you? How do you imagine that unfolds for you? And further, one step further, is if this is something you want or something that you feel you are doing, could you make more room for the other thing, the something greater, to be part of the process? Are you actually giving any space for the other thing, the mystical thing, the greater thing, to help you? Or are you doing it all yourself? And this is just something to consider, right? It's like to spend some time, because it's one thing to say, I want to be in co-creation with the universe, and it's another thing to actually take the time to consider, what does that mean? What does that look like at a tangible level? And if you are thinking about it literally, if the divine was a person, if the universe was an embodied being, if it was something that we could actually like personify in our imagination just for a moment to think about this a little bit more easily. If you were collaborating with another person, you would likely have to give them some space to do their part. And you could think about this in like most collaborative processes. There's very few things. I can't think of one right now, but I'm sure they exist. But I'm sure like a few things where you're actively doing the same task at the same time. But in a lot of collaborative processes, it's that one person is doing their part and the other person is doing the other part, and they're filling in the gaps, right? They're filling in the gaps that the other one is not doing. So they're coming together to create a whole, to fill in all of the spaces that are required to kind of like complete this process. And one way you can think about this is if you are piloting a plane or steering a ship, right? If you are navigating a vessel, right? And it's easy to think about like moving through life as like navigating a vessel of some sort. People often say you're in the driver's seat, right? So it's like if you're taking your ship, your life, whatever it is, your plane, your vessel in a direction, and if you are co-piloting this vessel with the universe, what would that look like? Does this imagery even land for you? But this is something to consider. If we thought about it as literally as this, as like a literal collaboration, if there are two pilots co-piloting one plane, they're not holding the steering device at the same time, right? It's not that there's one seat and like one steering wheel, we'll just pretend this is a ship or a plane that has like a steering mechanism, okay? It's not that two pilots are sitting like with half of their butt on the chair and the other one has half of their butt on the chair too, and they're just halfway on, and each one has a hand on the steering wheel, and they're like holding the steering wheel together trying to get where they're going. It would more likely look like one person is steering for some time and then stops, and then the other person is steering for some time, right? And similarly, you could think even if it was like a collaborative, like painting, that's like imagery that the records often show. It's like if you were painting a painting with the universe, you wouldn't be painting you wouldn't paint the whole canvas. You would leave some space for the universe, the other collaborator, to paint some of it. And so this is something to consider as they offer us this ancient idea, right? Pausing is part of the process, especially in a collaborative context. You have to stop to let the other one, the other collaborator, do their part. And maybe it's not a full stop, but there is this idea of spaciousness, right? Where you're not taking up the whole space of the process. You're leaving some room for them to participate. And so that's the question, is are you leaving room for the other, your collaborator, the universe? Are you leaving room for them to help you, to be part of the process? Or is this just an idea that you say, but you don't actually do? And going even a little bit further with this idea of pausing in the process of co-collaboration, right? Co-creation or collaboration, rather. What if it's not just you, right? If you're not the only one moving yourself, your life in a certain direction, if you have help, then that means you can afford to take a pause. And when big waves are happening, big waves of change or movement, internally or externally, are happening in your life, it's really easy to think that, so much is happening, I have to do more to keep up with all of these waves of motion or change that are happening internally or externally in my life, right? So it's like things get big, right? Or they get challenging, or something is happening, something starts to move, a lot is going on or coming up, and there's this like impulse to do more. And what the records are inviting us to remember is that if you're in a co-creative process, sometimes it's an invitation to do more, and sometimes it's actually an invitation to surrender and let your collaborator step in and help you. So when these like big waves of inner or outer change are happening, consider, is it true that I need to do more, or is this actually an invitation to stay still, to do less, to back up, and to give more space to my team, to my collaborator, to the universe, to do their part? And it's this like cycle, it's this dance of like action, steering the ship, and then surrendering to let the other one steer the ship for some time. And this necessarily involves trust. Do you trust your collaborator enough to pause and let them take over for some time? Do you trust that it's safe to do less when so much is happening? And this trust is something that comes over time, but these are the questions to contemplate in seasons like that, in big kind of like shifting, tumultuous seasons, inner or outer. What is your relationship with your collaborator? What's your relationship to pausing? And what is your relationship to surrender and trust? So that's where I'm going to leave you for today. And if this inspired some thoughts, some questions, some ideas, anything that you'd like to share around this, you're welcome to send me a message or leave a comment. I'd love to hear what this inspired within you. And until next time, I'm wishing you well. Namaste.